Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fuel for Success. My name is Matt Maddox, and we're coming to you live right now. And I have the opportunity of a lifetime for all of us. We have the one and only Matthew Barnett from Los Angeles, California. Well, I've had the privilege to be around, and let me tell you right now, I got a lot of things that I want to tell about what Matt has done with his accomplishments. But I'm going to tell you right now that I respect most about this guy is he's flat out the real deal. That's what I love about him. I've been around him, and down to earth, humble, kind, friendly, just a very genuine person. Matt, the time that we got to have dinner in Louisiana, still one of the most encouraging nights of my life. The questions I was able to ask, the things that you shared, you're well wise, way beyond your years, my friend. And it's just an honor for you to be here with us. And this is Matthew Barnett. I'm going to be asking him a lot of questions today, some Q&A. Of course, those that are watching live, you can type in the chat box and ask questions as well. And if we're able to get to them, we will. And those that are watching later on the archive, thank you very much as well. So my friend Matthew Barnett has authored 4 books, of which I've read every single one of them. In fact, when I was a pastor here in St. Petersburg, Florida, I had every member of our church. I bought a copy of The Church That Never Sleeps. It set us on fire. His book, The Cause Within You, New York Times bestseller. In fact, I'm going to put his Amazon link right here on the show. That way you guys can check these books out if you haven't heard of them yet. Powerful, very encouraging books. Also the book, God's Dream for You. And then his latest book, which I just finished reading, Matt. It was powerful. It got me all stirred up and motivated. Misfits Welcome. I loved it, man. I'm telling you what, buddy, it's good for me to read about you, and it's not good because every time you fire me up, man, and get these crazy ideas and passion going in my brain, which I love. So, Matt, welcome to our show today, man. We're so honored to have you.
I am so excited to be with you. Thank you.
You know, Matthew Barnett founded the Dream Center 20 years ago, took a church that had about 39 members, and today they reach about 50,000 plus people a week in the city of Los Angeles, well over 200 ministries. This is one of the only guys that I have met that truly lives what the Gospels were all about, and just is going to inspire us today. So, Matt, before I dive into some questions, I do want to ask you, because I know you're a diehard USC fan. Were you pumped up Saturday about the crushing win over Notre Dame, man?
Oh, it's been a while since we had a big victory like that, so I was very excited. Anytime you beat Notre Dame, it's a very good day. I don't care who beats them, but when we beat them, it's even more special.
Well, I do want to know who you're picking to be in the national championship game. Who do you feel it's going to be?
I think Alabama's now got their stride. I hate to be predictable, but I like Alabama and Oregon, and I like Oregon to upset Alabama this year. I like Oregon and Alabama. I'm going with the Ducks. I think they're due.
You go. I think if Nick Saban gets upset by Oregon, I think he should make $1 million donation to the Dream Center. So, Coach Saban, if you're watching, hey, go to dreamcenter.org. Matt, you know, your wife Carolyn and your 2 kids, Mia and Caden, I want to hear a little bit about your family because you know what? One thing I love is you're such an inspiring person. But your wife as well, and then your daughter, I understand, has started her own ministry to kids. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know my son is 12 years old, and he does a deal called Kids with a Mission, so I told him all about what your daughter does. I think it's awesome to see children catching vision for what it's really all about. Tell us a little bit about it, my friend.
You know, Matt, I believe that in family life, it's like your children. They're the most passionate about the things of God than anything else in the world. And, you know, my kids have a life. They have activities. They have things going on. But the thing they love the most is being a part of the things of God. That's what moves them the most. And so they're out in everything. I mean, I never tried to be that pastor that separated their kids from ministry and protected them. I just threw them into the fire. And I've always lived that way. And I think that's the best way. My kids go to church with kids from the projects who, you know, singing sometimes 4-letter words on the bus on the way to church. And I mean, it's an interesting thing that happens on a daily basis, but they love it. And they think that that's normal to work with kids that are lost and to bring people, be around hurting people. And it's very exciting. So my daughter literally just created this thing where if there's a need, they just jump to it. Kids that care, and they make a kid a superhero for the day. by featuring a kid who's responding to a certain need and getting kids to just be responsive to things like that out there in the world. And so she started that. And then my wife, of course, started volunteering at 18 and used to drive to the Dream Center every single day. And now she feeds 30,000 people a week in her feeding ministry with these mobile food trucks that convert into food banks on wheels that go into the community. And so, I mean, we're like all in it. It's like our whole life. Ministry is not the enemy. Ministry is our refuge. It is our break. It is our life. I kind of feel like the San Francisco 49ers coach when he said, I don't take that many trips. I don't take that many vacations. I'm like a jackhammer. I kind of feel like that. We're like a jackhammer to serve, and that's where we get our joy from, just every day getting up and making a difference. And my kids love it. They look for ways. And they go to the lunchroom, and they find kids that are left all alone. And I've taught them to sit by the kid that's abandoned, sit by the kid that feels like a misfit in his lunchroom, and just start looking for ways to kind of live different than the world in which we live in, that conforms, and but to transform it by the way in which we live and way in which we serve.
Matthew, I love that a lot, man. And I think that's something that we're starting to see. And does your daughter have a website for this or anything like that yet? Or just something that she's doing there locally?
She has a Twitter, Instagram and Twitter, Kids That Care, at Kids That Care. And and so we got our first project coming up, and now it's got several in the course of the new year. And it's just neat. I think, Matt, when I see your passion for young people and the way that you love and the way that you engage them into service and working, there's no greater joy in all the world than that.
Oh, absolutely, man. And, I'm going to connect my son with your daughter, man, because he does this thing called Kids with a Mission. People ask me all the time because I take them with me on these missions trips, going to inner cities. Say, are you not scared to bring your kids around that? I'm like, no way. Are you kidding? Like, what you have to understand is love never fails. So, I mean, here you are. You go to Skid Row. I mean, you guys are in the projects. So what do you say to parents out there, and rightfully so, maybe they're a little nervous. What would you say to any parent out there that might be a little nervous to get their kids engaged into the type of work that we're promoting, just going out into inner cities and serving?
Well, the reward is far greater than the risk, I tell you that. And I think that getting them out there, they realize that, playing it safe is sometimes the most dangerous life of all. And living on the edge, there's more excitement there, and there's more safety there because you're guaranteed to live under God's protection when you're going out and serving the least of these, and you're serving the hurting. And so the issue is we want to live under God's guarantees, and God promised to be with us when we go. And so there's a guarantee, go into all the world, and He will be with you when we go. So I just take the word at its truth, at its reality, that the safest place we can be is when we're out there making a difference, and we're protected by the shield of faith. And so I guess it's just believing that the Bible is real and that God will be with you when you go out. And so we've had so many amazing encounters. We take our kids out. They feel like the projects are their life. They're not scared of them. Skid Row doesn't freak them out anymore. It still scares me a little bit, but they're bold, and they go out there and they minister. And I think it's a wonderful lesson to teach your kids.
Man, that's awesome. Very inspiring.
Faith element.
Very inspiring. Your dad inspired me. I read his book probably about 10 years ago, and I wore it out. I mean, and I've listened to every single YouTube clip that I could get on of both of you guys. Literally, there's not a YouTube video of Matthew Barnett that I'm aware of that I haven't watched. I've listened to a lot of your stuff online as well, your teachings at your church, and read your books. Matt, my question to you is, how do you stay so motivated?
One of the things that keeps me motivated, and I get to see every day, like I just walked through the office, a lady that's been clean off of heroin for 60 days for the first days of her life. I don't worry about the ones that we lose along the way. We have 700 people live on this campus every day going through drug and alcohol rehab, and some don't make it, some do. But the ones that don't make it, the word of God will not return void, so I stay encouraged by that. But the ones who do make it, that's what keeps me motivated. The ones that came in here from a human trafficking situation where they were a sex slave, and they found these girls underground working, and they brought here, and they're starting to get it. So I think in leadership, one of the things of success is you got to focus on the successes. That's what keeps you going. And the ones that you feel like, well, I missed the mark along the way, realize that you did sow a seed, and those seeds will come later. And I think that's what keeps me going, is the victories And also, I think it's a vision for the finish line. And when you have a vision for the finish line, you don't get discouraged by little bit of losses along the way or discouragement or setbacks, because you know you're in it long term. And over the course of the long-term vision, the vision that God has for you is good. You're going to have a lot more good days than bad days. So I think it's when a lot of people have a short-term vision, they get discouraged. But when you have a long-term vision, it's a way to keep you going.
That's some very good advice for even people out there that are leading a business, a church, a pastor, a youth pastor, whatever you're doing. Matt, let me tell you, you're a very positive person. Every time I've been around you or watched you, you're always upbeat and positive, right? So my question to you is, how do you personally balance such a demanding schedule? I know you're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
You're leading an entire movement, and there's a lot of people pulling at you. And you're a husband. You have 2 kids. You have staff. So obviously, I'm sure this is a question people throw at you a lot. But I like the practical side of how have you learned some things that you've had to maybe adjust in your life. As I'm sure life was a little different when you had 39 people in your church, and now you've got literally thousands. So how have you been able to balance such a demanding schedule?
Matt, that's a great question. I used to think that there was an order, like, family first, second, third. I used to make a list. And one day God just spoke to me and said, that list isn't really needed. Because whatsoever your hand findeth to do, doeth all thy might. I said, well, what's first and what's second, what's third? And God said, well, okay, God's first. And then everything else is whatever your hand findeth to do, doeth all thy might. So I realized that everything is a priority, everything is important, and that nothing has to suffer. I can be the best father I can be. I'm in the moment. Like I take my kids to every game, every practice. I take them to school every single morning. And then I work my tail off during the day at school, at the Dream Center, trying to give my best. And that revelation changed my life, that I didn't necessarily have to live my life worried about if I'm making the proper list of 1, 2, 3, that everything was a gift to God and everything was a sacrifice. And I decided I was just going to do whatever I was going to do with all thy might. And sometimes all thy might means keeping an obligation. Sometimes it's calling 5 months in advance and asking the pastor if he would mind if I catch a playoff game that I have scheduled down the road. And, it's just being strategic about how you live your life and giving your best in all that you do.
Absolutely. I like it. So, okay. So let me ask you this. Your wife, you go back to your wife for a second. Follow her on Facebook. She's also very inspiring. You said she has a ministry that feeds over 30,000 people a week. Is that right?
That's right.
Us
They
a little
literally,
about that.
yeah, if you can imagine these box trucks that go out every day, and they go to elementary schools, and her goal is to feed every family in every elementary school in LA. So the moms pick up their kids from school, and then we have a truck that feeds 200 families, 38 sites a week. So 200 families times 38 sites, thousands of people. And she started that with one truck when she was 18 years of age, and they go out 6 days a week, and we have 6 mobile trucks, 38 sites, and they feed these families. And you will not believe the kind of miracles that are happening out there in feeding these families. I mean, they are lined up, and they're just weeping. They're being cared for. And so every elementary school knows the church as that church. They might not understand everything about who we are, even what we preach necessarily, but they just say, oh, that church is the one taking care of the food. So it's really about the church being out there, changing the atmosphere of the community by serving and earning that right to be heard. And then when the message comes with great boldness and power and strength, because we've laid the foundation of serving first. And I think that's what Jesus did. He preached a bold word, a powerful word, an honest word, but yet he usually did it after meeting a need and serving somebody that really opened up the need. So it's important to be bold about what you believe in the Word of God, but it's also important to be bold about living it out and gaining that respect to be able to truly speak into someone's life.
I love that. Matt, there's millions of singles out there. There's millions of young adults that are trying to find the right one. And, being who you are and what you do, there's no way you'd have been able to maintain your passion and lead what you're leading without marrying the right person. So can you give some singles out there some practical tips of how did you know that Carolyn was the one for you, my friend? You stayed single for quite a while, am I correct? How old were you when you married?
I did. Well, I was married at 25 years of age, and we dated for 3 months, then we got married. So it was fast. And
this story,
I want
to hear this. This is intriguing to me.
Well, yeah, I was a senior pastor of several thousand people at that time, just a few thousand. And as I was pastoring, I realized I had to find the right one. So I told God, I'm going to lose myself in the purpose. I'm going to lose myself in what you called me to be. And God, I need my marriage to be drama free. I'm going to put you first. I'm not going to date around just to try to find anybody. I need you to, if I seek ye first your kingdom and your righteousness, the other things will be added unto me, Lord. So I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to honor you. I'm going to do your will and make it as easy as possible for me. That's what I prayed to God. And he did. He sent a lady that shared the same passion. And we got together and we knew it was right. It was 3 months. We knew as a senior pastor, I couldn't be dating a lot of people anyways, but we knew God sent the right person. And she shared the same passion. My wife is funny because sometimes in ministry, pastors are talking about church is the enemy. You know, it's like, don't bring work home with you. It's the opposite in our house. I have to tell my wife to stop talking about the ministry because she's so passionate about it, you know. And it's been that way ever since we started. It's like, can we please talk about something else? All you want to talk about is feeding people. I know I sound unspiritual, I know. But she's the one that brings that dynamic. And so I really encourage people to single. Just don't go looking around everywhere and trying to find and, you know, skipping a great church you're a part of to find another church to find someone. You know, stay locked into God's purposes. Honor God. Honor the ministry and the leadership in the church that you're at. Be faithful. And in all thy ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. And that's really is the truth. The more I look for somebody, the further it got away. But the more I look to find God's will and purpose, boy, God doesn't play mind games with his people. He doesn't play tricks on you. He wants you to have the right person. But when your heart's in the right place and you're seeking after his kingdom, it's going to happen. The old saying is that expect it when at least expect it. It's really true in the sense of pursuing God and letting him bring it to you.
Man, that's awesome, man. Matt, that's really good advice. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I want to get to talking about the Dream Center, but you know, your dad is a fascinating, I mean, if the Bible was being written, he would be a character like Moses or, you know, Joshua. I mean, what a world changer. So tell me 3 things. I know it's probably hard to sum it up. And I see maybe a book in the future of you actually writing a book. Maybe you're planning on it. But I see you writing a book about your dad just because there's probably things that you got to see from him growing up and that are embedded in your mind. You know, I remember reading in a book that you guys used to go out to eat after church and talk and he would just share things with you. So if you had to sum it up in like 3 things that you learned from your dad watching him build that great church in Phoenix, what would it be, man? I know that's a tough question, but if you could come up with at least 3, what would they be?
Number 1, refuse to be disillusioned by people. That was the greatest gift of my father. He would never be negative about church people. He would always be positive. Even as a pastor's kid, when I would bring up something negative, he never let me go there. He always stayed consistent with his belief of the good of humanity. And he believed that from the core. He never got negative in ministry. And that's what made me positive about ministry. So his relentless ability to believe the best is one of the great qualities. Number 2, his ability to get revelation and believe it was done. For example, we'd be at home and he would rally the family together and say, family, there's something in my life I need to work on. I need to be better at. And he would tell us what he was weak at and what he wanted to be stronger at. And he said, but God spoke to me to do this. And then he would do it. His perspective would change. He would literally execute what he told us. He wouldn't just say, I want to be better in this and then struggle with it. And I said, Dad, how are you able to do that? Tell us what you wanted to be and become. And he said, because I honestly believe that when God shared me something I needed to change, that he gave me the power to change. And I walked as if it was already done. And that's a powerful thing. He believed in the revelation that was done, and he walked as if it was complete. And he received it. Number 3, he had a few values only, but he lived them well. He lived them with all of his heart. Find a need and fill it. You know, live your life for an audience of one. Just a few principles that he shared. And he didn't believe in having a lot of principles. He just believed in having a few principles that would drive the rest of your life. And those things that he said, you know, if you can hold on to a few things and believe them to the core, will have spin-off effects on other ways in which you live your life. And so I never forget, find a need and fill it, and find a hurt and heal it. Don't live your life for the approval of man, because you'll quit. Live your life for an audience of one unto the Lord, and you'll never be discouraged. And anything you get from man, he used to tell me was a bonus, but do everything unto the Lord.
Man, that's powerful. I mean, that right there could change someone's life. If you took to heart those 3 things, anybody out there that's watching, that's in ministry, or you're aspiring to be in ministry, I promise you, if you take those three things that he just shared about his dad and lived them, you're going to see yourself having a whole lot of blessing and fruit in ministry. So speaking of ministry, Matt, I mean, the thing that's just inspired the world is the Dream Center. And, you know, most of your books talk about it, and I know that you couldn't tell this whole story in 5 minutes, but so let me ask you this, man. When it came to the Dream Center, when you started it, first thing I want to ask is, did you ever imagine it'd be this big?
Not even close. When we started the Dream Center, I just literally was a battle for survival to try to stay in the ministry. You know, we came in after the earthquakes. We came in after the LA riots. We came after a time when everybody was leaving LA. I mean, we 18% loss, and this city never stops growing. But people were leaving, and it was a hard time. I'm pastoring by a liquor store, and there's riots and anarchy in the air, a lot of problems. And so every day was a day of survival. And I really could only see the church become 100 people. I really could. And I thought if I could pastor a church of 100 people, I could be fulfilled. And there is a fulfillment, and that's wonderful. But I never realized that just by taking a prayer walk and God saying, I want you to build a different kind of church. I want you to build a Monday through Saturday church, and then the offspring will be Sunday. That was a transformation, and where we took in our first people in the apartments, and then 14 houses in the neighborhood, and then the crazy bid we made on the Beacon of Angels Hospital, where I'm sitting today, this 400,000 square foot hospital, which we finally, after 20 years, we're 100% done with the building. We just finished it like 3 months ago. And
Wow.
so it's been people think the Dream Center has been an overnight success, but Matt, I want to tell you and encourage people out there, it's been inch by inch. It's been little miracle by little miracle. But I think if you make small progress and stay consistent, there's greater foundation in the ministry, and I think there's greater appreciation in the ministry as the years go on for what it takes to just win little battles along the way. And I think that this kind of city needed a victory like that. You know, you get this big victory in the beginning of the hospital, and then it's been a lot of series of little victories along the way.
I bet it was a big step of faith. I always tell people, Matt, you know, people don't give because they have because they give. So anybody that maybe is reading your book, or they see you on Twitter and you got all these people following, you got all these volunteers, you got all these resources, trucks, you know, all these, but what people don't understand is you didn't start off with all of that. That, like you said, you started off small, and here you are today just because you kept pouring out and kept giving. So maybe talk to that person that's just starting out in New York City or Seattle or Dallas or, you know, Philadelphia, and they have nothing. What would you say to those people that are just starting out? Sometimes they can get overwhelmed when, you know, you've been at it for 20 years, and the one thing I know about you is you've worked hard. You know, a lot of people would love to beat you, but I don't know how many people would love to carry your cross and work as hard as you've worked. And I say that as a compliment. I just don't want people to get discouraged or even have a false sense of reality that, hey, you can have this, but you got to be willing to pay the price. You got to be willing to take the risk. I mean, the risk that you've taken that I've watched through the years, I'm like, wow, this dude's, I always thought I was radical, but I'm under conviction. I'm like, man, this guy's lit me on fire. So what would you say to that person out there that's just starting and just beginning, my friend?
Well, I think when you're starting, the discouragement is we think serving sometimes is a destination. I got to get to this spot. I got to get to this point. I have to arrive here in order for my life to have meaning. But the truth is, serving is not a destination. It's just simply a journey. I tell people, and they don't believe this, I said, I had just as much fun in ministry giving away 5 food bags as 30, 40,000 people now a week. I had just as much fun of serving out of that one house as the hospital today. And I really believe that. I think sometimes people get discouraged because they're always wanting to be somewhere other than where they are right now. And I think the joy is we've always wanted to be where we're at, love to be where we're at, value to be where we're at, on the way to where we were going. And that's been a great joy that's kept us in the ministry. I know 20 years from now, God will give us so much more than we have right now. But I enjoyed this season that we're at, which is pretty incredible. But I felt every season has been incredible. And I think a lot of people quit in the first couple years because it's about where they want to be versus the process and the joy of just serving in little ways, making a difference, helping people, and realizing that it's all big when you're on the journey. And there's no low points. There's no ending point. It's a continual place of serving. And I think that's that's been the great joy of my life. I still get more excited about the one than even the thousands, and I really do. I just get today our staff meeting just before here. People are sharing testimonies of one life being changed in their program and their ministry, and I still get excited about that than any other thing in ministry. So as long as they stop seeing serving as like this destination spot and see it as a continual unveiling of growth and joy and making a difference, you're going to stay in it for a long, long time in your calling.
Matt, that's awesome. And you know what? I know that he means what he says when he had just as much fun giving out 5 bags of groceries as he does feeding 30,000. So enjoy the journey, my friends, whether you're leading thousands or you have 5 people. Now, Matt, knowing what you know now, and your experience, let's say you and your wife and kids were going to just move to a city like Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. or New York or wherever, and you were to take a small church or start a church. What would you do? Knowing what you know and experience what you've experienced, what would you do?
The first thing I would do is I would start an adopt-a-block program. And the adopt-a-block program is when we go out in the streets and we adopt neighborhoods in the community every single week. And we just go out there and serve them and love them. And we pick 2 houses. We pick 1 block in the community. We take 30 visits in the neighborhood. And we just go out and serve those 30 visits and love on people and make a difference there. And so as we go out and serve, every 2 people take those 30 homes. That's like their congregation for life. And they just go to the door and say, what can we do to serve you, make a difference? And so it's so simple and so easy. And we just went out and began to make a difference in 1 block and 2 blocks. And before long, it now became 140 blocks in the community. And so I would start with the adopt a block. I would just go door to door and start serving people and finding unique ways to make a difference. And that would be the first thing that we start. And probably the second thing would be a recovery home. Just a little house and start taking people in and making a difference in a year program and help people get clean.
I love that, man. I totally love that. I hope any pastor out there watching really takes this to heart. I know it works. We did that here in St. Petersburg, Florida, down in Tampa, my friend. A few more questions for you, Matt. You've been so inspiring for me, and there will be thousands of people that'll be watching this. This is Fuel for Success. We do a daily internet talk show Monday through Friday. This is our 237th episode, and what a treat to have Matthew Barnett here with us. Matt, so let me ask you a few more questions about the Dream Center. So tell me this, if you had to sum up maybe 2 to 3 stories that really just stick out to you, and I know that's hard because there's probably thousands, but 2 to 3 stories that really stick out to you from your ministry there at the Dream Center.
I think it's the level of people who we have seen from the utter pits of despair, guys like homeless Barry, who was living under a bridge for 15 years, and that's all he known was living under that bridge. And, he lived there every single day, and nobody ever took the time, and we kept inviting him to come to the church. And at 60 years of age, this man finally came up under his bridge after living for 15 years like a hermit under the city, literally. And he got a meal and went into our rehab program, graduated Bible college, and is now a pastor on staff. And one of the greatest miracles is to see a man who's lived under the bridge for so long go through such transformation. And that was one of the great stories. Another girl is a victim of human trafficking and sex slavery since she was 13 years of age, brought to our church from the FBI and raids that they have done, and found a girl being sexually assaulted every day, every week by 20 to 30 men. And now she's going to college, living at the Dream Center, and she's studying to be a NASA engineer. She's literally going to be in the NASA program making telescopes for NASA. And to see a girl that wouldn't even look us in the eye, wouldn't even talk to us, now going into Pasadena into a college to become a telescope maker for NASA and excelling and doing well, is only the gospel can do that. The only God can take people's lives from such destruction and rebuild such hope and such possibility. And my associate pastor now, Jonathan Martinez, 15 years of age, came through us and through the juvenile detention facility. They sent him here to have juvenile hall, and the judge pounded the gavel and told him he's sentenced to the Dream Center, and now he's an assistant pastor of mine in his mid-20s. So this whole ministry is 70% of my staff are graduates of our drug and alcohol rehab program, and it's pretty exciting to see what's taking place.
Matt, that is amazing, man. Totally awesome. So in your journey, there had to have been moments where it was stressful or tight, big financial risk. Can you share one or two miracles that took place, or maybe a close call, or maybe a moment when you were just like, pastor hiding under your desk, like, oh God, I need a miracle? There had to have been moments, because I know this was a big leap of faith for you guys.
Oh, we've had some terrifying moments. I remember when we were trying to get this building up to code and we didn't have the money to be able to pay for the process of getting the building up to code. An inspector came and we thought the Dream Center was going to get shut down. And we were very honest about our lack of progress. And this guy was no joke, and he came by and see what was going on. And we realized we didn't have everything taken care of yet in the building. And a lot of people we put out on the streets. And so he walked around the building and looked around. And as he walked around, he got confused. He said, I really don't know what to do with this ministry yet. I don't know what to do with everything. And he got kind of perplexed, almost like the spirit of confusion came over him. And he said, well, I'll come back later when I can kind of figure out the dynamic of what this thing is and this coding. And it was a weird sense of confusion he went through. And we never saw that guy again for about a year or a year and a half. He never came back. And that was the time we needed to get the building up to code. And so, I think we thank God for, doing the best we can. And sometimes you don't have the money to do the things you want to do. If you want to help people, you're not intentionally trying to be negligent, but you just need some help along the way. And that was the time God came along and kind of gave us that extra time that we needed to finish the job. There have been times where we needed a miracle financially by Friday and been $50,000-$60,000 short in an offering of exactly what we've come in, sometimes on the set, literally on the exact dollar amount and cent amount. And I realized that when you just start helping hurting people, God has got an incredible obligation that he carries to take care of a ministry that's helping hurting people. And we chose to live under that obligation that God has for his people.
Guys, those that are watching live and those that are watching later on the archives, we're going to put up an actual, today is Giving Tuesday. And guys, of all that you could give to, trust me, you want to give to what is blessed. God told Abraham, I'll bless them that bless you. When you bless what God is blessing, you're going to get blessed. And I don't know of anything that is more closer to the heart of God than what the Dream Center is doing. So I'm going to post this link to this website for Give Tuesday. And then I recommend you guys become a monthly partner with the Dream Center. Again, here's what will happen. You give, and as you know, you're going to be blessed because you're a part of that, even though you may never visit it. I mean, to think of the people that you're helping with human trafficking. I don't even know how many right now. I know that that's a huge ministry you guys got going, and I'm so grateful for it because that's a major need. Can you tell us a little bit about your human trafficking ministry there?
It's incredible. It's the largest facility in America dedicated to human trafficking. We have 34 girls who live in the program now, currently. And I think there's less than 20 beds nationwide for that alone. So it's been really incredible to see what's taking place with that. I mean, the FBI brings these girls that have been smuggled across the border because you can sell girls cheaper. I mean, you can sell them over and over again, and drugs you can only sell once. So the new cartel across the border are all these girls that are promised a better life in America, and then they're told they're going to have to work off the payment for bringing them across the border and keep working it off, and it's a debt that never ends. And these girls come in, and we find them, and they do raids, and they bring them here, the police, the chiefs, the girls that we find on the street. We go out every single night from 2 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes 6 a.m. is the highest trafficking hours. And I was asking our workers why 6 to 7 is so high. They said because the businessmen get up in the morning and they go, before they go to work, they stop by and pick up these girls and in the morning before they go to work. And my heart's so broken by this. And this facility we have is gorgeous. It looks like a top-end resort. And these girls get loved on and encouraged. And sometimes it takes years to get through these mental issues and damage, but it's spiritual warfare. There's only one way to overcome this issue of human trafficking, and it's a spiritual issue. It's to overcome this warfare that they go through. But you see them click. You see them come to the altar and pray and seek God and get changed. And it's an extraordinary thing that's happening with the human trafficking ministry.
Matt, that is awesome, bro. I'm very inspired, and today, like I said, you've inspired me so much, but today was the icing on the cake, man. I really appreciate your time. If you don't mind, maybe two or three other quick questions. Matt, what motivated you to write a book, and what is your writing regimen or process? Are you one of those type of people that write every day? Do you go away to write? Do you write when you're inspired? Like, what's your personal regimen for this?
I am the craziest writer of all. I like to write in public places. I like to write I like to write at places like IHOP where you can hear 15 hours a day, people coming in the booth next to you while you're writing in the background. My wife thinks I'm the craziest writer. I like sound. I like noise. I like to be around activity. And that's the way I write my books. And with Misfits Welcome, the newest one that I wrote, and talking about being a church and a group of people and Christians in general that embrace misfits, it was just written in chaos and, writing in the middle of housing projects when you're seeing scenarios unfold right in front of your eyes. And so I'm definitely an on-location type of writer that I get inspired by events and people and things that happen and things that are current and fresh in my spirit. But everyone's different. Some people like to write in complete lockout down, but when I get in a rhythm, I don't want to stop. I can write 18 hours a day sometimes. I know it's crazy. And when I get under the anointing, I like to flow with it. When I feel it, I roll with it, and I trust it. And that's kind of been what I've been. But you might be totally opposite of me as a writer, and you might find inspiration in a different way. But I think I've embraced chaos. That's kind of a person who embraces it rather than runs from it.
I'm the same way. I can't stay in an office. It's too quiet. I've got to be out among people. But Maddie, bro, I love you, man. I'd do anything for you, but we got to do a little better than IHOP, baby. You're in LA. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that funny? I think it's because there's more interesting scenarios unfold in the booth behind me, and I laugh at some of the things I hear. And yes, you're right. I could do a lot better. There's a lot better restaurants. The one that you took me to in Louisiana would be even better. That was phenomenal.
That was good. Matt, you're just awesome, bro. One last thing I want to ask you is, who's inspired you the most besides your father? And are there any books that you would recommend people to read that have really inspired you?
You know what? My father inspires me, obviously, in the ministry, and I think a lot of people that are in longevity inspire me. I've also been greatly inspired by great people, great coaches like John Wooden. Unfortunately, he's from UCLA, but our enemy. But I used to love to read the books of John Wooden and his commitment to the details, and I read many of his books and learned what it means to be a great coach and learn to care about the individual as much as you care about the success. And he's been a great inspiration in my life. I've read John Wood's book on observations, and it's meant a lot to me in my personal journey of what it takes to do the little things in leadership along the way. And just got a lot of great friends. People like Pastor Jensen Franklin, a great hero of mine, taught me how to pray and seek God and to love to seek the things of God. And of course, Billy Graham, his longevity and his emphasis on soul winning, and just a lot of different combinations of people that have really inspired my life.
Well, Matt, thank you so much. You inspire me, my friend. And Matthew Barnett, you can go to dreamcenter.org, and there's all kinds of ways to get involved. You can actually go there and volunteer. Recommend anybody that goes to Los Angeles to stop by there. Please do make a donation today. Consider becoming a monthly partner with the Dream Center. Go to dreamcenter.org for any of that information. You can follow Matthew Barnett on Twitter, which I recommend. I love his tweets. Puts out some really good tweets. Just go to @Matthew Barnett. And then, of course, same thing on his Facebook page, Matthew Barnett as well. Matt, I love you to pieces, bro. Give your daughter and son a high five from me and tell your daughter to keep up with her kids that care. That's awesome. And thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time joining with us today.
Matt, your energy gets more and stronger every year. I love your passion. Being around you, you just want to do something great for the glory of God. And I just appreciate you and the leadership and the longevity of your mission and purpose. And I just appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And this whole program and watching the comments that are popping up here of the viewers here, what a great audience you have and a powerful group of people. And I promise you one thing, we're going to give it our best. We're going to love people in the trenches. We're going to pull them out of gutters, and we're going to fight for the soul of Los Angeles because something good needs to happen out of this city. We're known for a lot of bad things that come out, but we want LA to be known truly as a city of angels and angels of compassion serving and making a difference. And so thank you.
Hey, we love you, man. Keep it up, Matt. Thank you so much. Well, my friends, thank you for watching live today. You can watch this later on the archives. All you got to do is go to fuelforsuccess.tv. And then don't forget to subscribe to iTunes. You can download any of our previous podcasts. And then, of course, my friends, our YouTube channel. That was Matthew Barnett. Oh, my goodness. That was absolutely inspirational. What an opportunity of a lifetime. He's author of the New York Times bestseller book, The Cause Within You, also The Church That Never Sleeps. His recent book that he's written about misfits. You need to read that book. I just finished it today, or actually last night. And very inspiring. And Matt's a friend of mine. He's the real deal. He's down to earth. He's humble. He lives it. He's a true servant. And I hope all of you that are watching today live are inspired. And then those that are watching later on the archives, thank you as well. Don't forget to go to dreamcenter.org. And then, of course, today is Give Tuesday. So great time to be involved in the Dream Center and also Mission 25. We got our missions trip coming up in New York City. I'm going to bring my partner, Mike Hopkins, on here. Actually, I'm going to end this because I realize we're out of time. We love you guys. God bless you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time on Fuel for Success tomorrow morning at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time.